In 1927, historian Nikolai Gorban made a chilling discovery in the Kharkov Historical Archive. The documents he unearthed detailed a gruesome investigation from the turbulent 18th century, revealing a tale of horror that would rival the most notorious serial killers in history. Shocked by the contents, Gorban penned an essay titled The Bandit Matsapura, which exposed a dark chapter in Ukrainian history encompassing robbery, cannibalism, and the pagan practices of the Zaporozhian Cossacks. The central figure in this macabre story was Pavel Grigorovich Shulzhenko, born in the village of Kolesniki in the Preluki regiment, located in what is now the Chernihiv region of Ukraine. The investigation materials painted a vivid picture of Shulzhenko, a tall, broad-shouldered man with a back marred by whip scars, a testament to his criminal past. His neighbors dubbed him Matsapura, a term used by Ukrainian peasants to describe slovenly, unkempt individuals. This nickname would later become synonymous with terror and brutality. Matsapura's early life was marked by instability and failure. Unable to maintain a stable family life, he abandoned his wife and became a drifter, moving from farm to farm and taking on odd jobs to survive. This rootless existence eventually led him down a dark path that would culminate in some of the most horrific crimes in Ukrainian history. In 1735, Matsapura's life took a fateful turn when he joined the gang of 40-year-old Mikhail Mishchenko. The group, which included two young men named Akim Pivnenko and Andrei Pashenko, specialized in horse theft and highway robbery in the steppes between Preluki and Zolotonosha. They operated with a degree of organization, selling stolen horses at fairs and fencing other stolen goods through a tavern keeper known as Dudnika. Matsapura's criminal career escalated rapidly. One night, he daringly robbed the house of a notable comrade named Domaratsky, who had close ties to the hetman, the military and political leader of the Cossack state. This brazen act led to Matsapura's imprisonment in Preluki, where he was severely beaten. However, demonstrating the cunning that would become his hallmark, Matsapura managed to escape. For the next 3 years, Matsapura continued his life of crime, engaging in numerous robberies. In 1738, he committed what would prove to be a pivotal offense, stealing horses from the stable of Andrei Gorlenko, a Bunchuk comrade. The title of Bunchuk, typically given to retired colonels, signified Gorlenko's high status and influence in Hetman Ukraine. This theft would have severe consequences for Matsapura. Gorlenko's servants eventually captured Matsapura, and although the stolen horses were not recovered, the thief was incarcerated in the regimental prison of Preluki for a year. During this time, Matsapura adapted to prison life, becoming what was euphemistically called a master of behind-the-scenes affairs, in reality, a prison executioner. This role gave him intimate knowledge of torture techniques, a skill he would later employ with terrifying efficiency. However, Matsapura's time as an executioner was short-lived. During Lent in 1739, he managed another daring escape, marking the beginning of his most notorious and blood-soaked chapter. Initially, he settled in the hamlet of Romanika, where he formed a gang with 6 like-minded criminals. Their first major operation was the robbery of a merchant caravan transporting vodka on the Nezhin Road. The attack was brutal and efficient. 7 traders were murdered, their bodies unceremoniously buried in the snow. During subsequent investigations, Matsapura confessed to a chilling detail. He derived pleasure from torturing his victims, often burning their feet. This sadistic streak would become a hallmark of his crimes. After each robbery, the gang would divide their spoils, consuming some of the stolen vodka and selling the rest to trusted taverns. They also sold stolen horses at fairs, often at suspiciously low prices. The spring of 1740 saw a significant expansion of Matsapura's gang with the addition of 4 Zaporozhian Cossacks, Mikhailo Makarenko, Denis Gritsenko, Martin Ravitsky, and Ivan Taran. Taran, in particular, would prove to be a demonic influence on the group, introducing elements of pagan rituals and cannibalism that would elevate their crimes from mere banditry to something far more sinister. The expanded gang established a base near the village of Mokievka, choosing the ancient Telepan mound as their headquarters. This choice was symbolic, as the mound dated back to the time of the Polovtsians, linking the gang's activities to an ancient, pagan past. Their first raid from this new base was against passing merchants, resulting in the capture of 5 carts loaded with vodka. 3 victims were beaten to death, while 2 were released for ransom, demonstrating the gang's growing confidence and brutality. From this point on, Matsapura's gang descended into what can only be described as lawlessness. Their crimes became more frequent and increasingly savage. In a single day, they murdered a shepherd tending his herd and 2 horse drivers. The following morning, driven by an insatiable bloodlust, they encountered and raped a peasant woman in the steppe. This pattern of violence continued, with the gang kidnapping, raping, and murdering multiple women from nearby villages and travelers unfortunate enough to cross their path. The gang's depravity reached new heights when they captured a pregnant woman. It was at this point that Ivan Taran, the Zaporozhian Cossack, suggested performing an ancient Cossack ritual. This horrific ceremony, likely an echo of pagan steppe magic that persisted in Cossack culture, involved cutting open the woman's belly and removing the fetus. Taran claimed he could use the infant's face to divine which gang members would be caught and who would escape punishment. The ritual that followed was beyond horrific. Taran cut out the infant's heart and roasted it over a fire. The killers then took turns tossing the heart, with the belief that those who caught it would avoid punishment, while those who dropped it were doomed. After the divination, in an act of ultimate desecration, the gang consumed the infant's body. Taran, now established as the spiritual leader of the group, claimed that this act of cannibalism would make them more successful and braver in their future crimes. Under Taran's influence, the gang, which had grown to 16 members, began not only robbing people, but also eating them on the ancient mound. This unimaginable level of violence at Telepen eventually attracted the attention of the authorities, forcing the bandits to split up. Matsapura joined the gang of his old associate, Klim Zaporozhets. Matsapura's reign of terror finally came to an end near the small village of Smotriki. After a 3-month manhunt, he was captured by Sotnik Isol Dorosh-Bojko. During interrogations and torture in the chancellery of Lubny, Matsapura revealed the full extent of his crimes, shocking even the hardened Sotnik leadership. The subsequent investigation led to the arrest of some gang members, including Mishchenko, Pivnenko, and Pashchenko. However, many of the most brutal offenders, including Ivan Taran, managed to evade capture. On September 30th, 1740, the military general court issued its ruling. For eating human flesh, which even the unrighteous barbarians do not do, in accordance with the specified Little Russian rights, to carry out a cruel death penalty on the same Telepen mound, around which they committed robbery. In a twist of fate, Matsapura managed one last escape from the prison in Glukov. Taking advantage of a sleeping guard, he fled along the Krolovets road. Using a horse bone and a wooden branch, he ingeniously removed his shackles and sought refuge in the village of Obloshki. However, his freedom was short-lived. Local residents, suspicious of the stranger, turned him over to the authorities. The court sentence for Matsapura was exceptionally brutal, reflecting the severity of his crimes. He was ordered to have his fingers and toes cut off, his ears and nose removed, and then to be impaled. The other captured gang members were sentenced to be quartered. On December 22nd, these grim sentences were carried out. The legacy of Matsapura and his gang lingered long in the popular memory of the region. Pavel Shulzhenko Matsapura became known as the Chikatilo of his time, his name a byword for murderer and executioner. The gang's deeds, particularly their acts of cannibalism and pagan rituals, became the stuff of local legend and cautionary tales. The story of Matsapura and his gang provides a dark glimpse into a turbulent period of Ukrainian history. It reveals not only the brutality of individual criminals, but also the persistence of pagan beliefs and practices within Cossack culture. The case stands as a chilling reminder of the depths of human depravity and the complex interplay between crime, superstition, and social upheaval in 18th-century Ukraine.